charter said, oh, we'll just keep the tax money. They all issued new tax bills. And whether it was to send out a check for $2 or $3, they sent out the checks. I'm not even advocating sending out checks. I just think, give credits or issue credits on the account for next year. But the important thing here is that the tax levy that you adopted on the 29th of June has to be the levy that we go by. I've heard it said that, oh, this is only a one-time occurrence. It is not. You increase the tax rate by 45 cents. I'm going to pay an additional 45 cents on my tax rate every year. A part of that is because of the contingency fund. The only way to make taxpayers in this town whole is to vote against vote for reconsideration, but vote against the motions that you voted on in July. You have to vote down those motions. If you vote the same way, you're keeping the levy at what it was, the artificially raised levy, and you're going to have taxpayers in this town paying an extra charge every year that they pay taxes as long as they own the property. I don't understand how anyone can even deny that. And to say, oh, we're going to spend the money in a different way next year, so what? Your base for the tax levy increase is based on 4% of your budget. Of the tax levy. You can only raise the tax levy by 4%. If you have an extra $100,000 in there that you shouldn't have had, you're going to be able to raise the tax levy higher with the $100,000 than you would with the straight levy that was agreed upon on the 29th. I just see a million and one things wrong with this, and it's mind-boggling to me that we have to sit here and argue against this. You have an attorney, he may give you his opinion, I may give you the opinion from our attorney. It's a legal opinion. That doesn't mean it's law. One of them is going to be found to be correct and the other incorrect. And it isn't even a matter of that. The judge is going to interpret the law for you. One attorney will argue one point, and the other attorney is going to argue another. But the law is defined when the judge makes the ruling. There have been similar cases such as this. We put it in the OMA complaint, Cabana versus Littler in Providence. They assessed a supplemental tax after deduction of the budget, and the courts upheld in favor of the Cabanas, this nice little couple who spent a fortune to get back their tax dollars. And the ruling of the courts, one of the arguments in the ruling of the court was that the town, the city, violated the deadline dates in the charter. It said they had to send out the tax bills by a certain date. They had to do this by a certain date. And they didn't abide by those charter requirements. So the judge ruled in favor of the Cabanas. It also, something very interesting in that ruling, if you read it, the judge also opinionated on the fact that when they issued the supplemental tax, they didn't identify particular expenditures that would even be needed for the money. And state law requires you to submit what you're going to spend the money on. I'm looking at this, and I've read that decision, and I've looked at every other budget in the state of every other municipality. I notice they're all budgeting very insignificant numbers for their contingency funds, and I'm starting to believe, and I had a conversation with multiple attorneys on this, that I don't even know if it's legal to tax someone to put money in a contingency account for maybe we might need the money for something, not the way the statutes are written. There's a state law that defines, gives you the authority to tax people, and it delineates the types of things you can tax for. I don't see on there where you have the legal right to tax for, you might need the money, so we're going to put it, or we're going to put it in the bank. That's not one of the 21 or 23 items that you're enabled by the legislature in Rhode Island to tax for. I don't even understand, also, what is the downside to just basically doing the right thing and saying, okay, we made a mistake, we're going to go with the budget on the 29th, and we'll issue a credit to everybody's tax bill for the extra, whatever it comes out to be per household. I tell you, at the last meeting, I think mine is about $35. I'm not worried about the 35 bucks, I'm worried about the 35 bucks this year, next year, the following year, the following year. Because the only way you're going to correct that is to go with the original tax levy that you voted on the 29th. That's critical. And that's the most important thing. You know, so, I don't know what the downside is. What's the harm in that? We're going to fight over, we need this money when you didn't even identify it all during the budget process? And do you really, in your minds, believe that the charter was written and delineated page upon page upon page the requirements of the process that you have to go through to get a budget approved? And it has nothing in it that addresses how do you get an amendment to the budget and increase the levy after the June 30th deadline. Do you really think that there's some loophole in there, one sentence thing that totally negates the entire budget process, but doesn't define how you have to go about issuing a supplemental tax and amending your budget? There's nothing in here that describes how to amend your budget, except for the one provision that gives the electors of the town the right to petition within 7 days of the adoption of the budget, the right to hold a public meeting and amend the budget, but even that limits the amendments to be discussed to no number greater than what the budget committee recommended. That's why nobody's ever implemented that or invoked that section of the charter. There's little point. You can only get, even under that section of the charter, the maximum number that was recommended by the budget committee. That's the only mechanism that you might say, and I don't even say it gives you the right to amend the tax levy, it gives you the right to amend the budget. So you might take money out of one item and put it in another. But there is no long, lengthy process described in your town charter that says how you can amend the budget and increase the tax levy. There's a long, long section in the charter about how to adopt your budget, and now it seems we're gonna, I don't understand on what, but basically get rid of it. It's a terrible precedent to set. I've heard a lot of you, or some of you at least, criticize the previous council for different things. Do you really want to hand to a council that you don't know in the future the right to amend the budget and send out new tax bills every single month if they so choose? It's crazy. Why would the people who wrote the charter ever enable and keep that in mind when they adopted the charter? There is no provision in there for amending it because they didn't intend for you to amend the levy after the first of the year. And that's why it's never happened, except that one time under a court order. There is an opinion, there is something in the charter, and we seem to be not following the charter on quite a few items lately, but there is something in the charter that requires that the opinion of the town solicitor be provided to the town clerk. That's put in, and we don't do that. I filed for that. I asked to see the written opinion from the solicitor on this matter, and I was denied access to it because it was a correspondence between client and attorney. But if you have something in your charter that says the written opinion of the solicitor is supposed to be on file with the town clerk, that takes precedence. You've got to put it in the town clerk's hands. It's a charter requirement. It's not negated by the ACTA law. The ACTA law says what you can withhold. But if you have something in your charter that says, no, that's got to be made available, I think that you're going to find it's got to be made available. But we don't follow that section. And that's in there to protect us just from this situation. We need to know whether the attorney is giving you advice behind the scenes that you are not following and getting us into trouble, or do we have a bad attorney who's giving you bad advice and you are following? That's why that provision is in the charter, for us to be able to review the written opinion of the solicitor. At some point in time, if the guy is given a written opinion that's wrong 10 out of 10 times, somebody might stand up and say, hey, you think it's time for a new attorney? And that's why that provision is in the charter. Again, they're not being independent, so we can't even second guess it. I mean, I don't understand the whole why certain sections of the charter are enforced or aren't enforced. And that's the checks and balances that we have to make sure that things are done the right way and legally. You know, I hate to even get into it, but there's been debates about what the money's needed for, and it's justified because we need the money, and we need to bolster the fund balance. I want to remind at least two of you who sat on this council when I chaired the budget committee. Tommy and Paul, you were both on the committee, and Paul and Ed Yazbek was on the council as well. And after meeting with the bond council, telling us, as we were hoping at some point within the next few years, to go up to bond, to use the national grid money like every other community in the state was doing, we were told we needed to beef up the fund balance if you could. We put $25,000 in a line item called restoration of fund balance the very first year. And you'll remember, Mr. Yazbek argued against it. And he said, no. He said, I don't care what the bond council says. They're looking, I think he made a comment that they're looking out for the benefit of the investors. They're not looking out for the town. And he said, to me, that's paramount to, tantamount to putting money in the bank, taxing people to put money in the bank. And I have to admit that, it sunk in when he said that. And I left there thinking, maybe he was right about that. And now as I look over the statutes on what you can and can't tax for, I'm thinking, no, I think he really was right. You can't tax people to put money in the bank. There's other ways of improving your balance sheet and getting money into the general fund, but just to tax someone to throw a bunch of money in the bank, I think in retrospect, Ed might have been right. And that was over $25,000. And Tommy didn't vote for it. We were laughing about it recently, and Ed didn't vote for it. But, now all of a sudden we're throwing $535,000 into the fund balance, and we're saying that's okay. 30 cents of the 45-cent increase is attributable to having $535,000 budgeted for contingency accounts. 30 cents of your 45-cent tax increase. Unheard of in any part of this state. I'd like you to show me the community that does that. I provided you all, I sent an email showing you what other communities in the state were budgeting for contingency accounts. We're the highest in the state with 1.235% of our total operating budget going in the contingency line item. Then you drop down the list, the second closest to us is Narragansett with a higher budget, and they budgeted $300,000, and that represents 0.5159. And it goes all the way down to zero. Most of them are budgeting a third of what we're budgeting for contingencies as a proportion in relationship to their total budgets. And I think they're all doing so out of the same concern that I just expressed, that maybe if we budget too much, we're going to get caught, and some judge is going to slap us down and say, you're budgeting just to put money in the bank, and you can't do that because it's not one of the 23 things on the list. So I worry about this. And I want to point out too, even in 2014, and I hope there's a presentation on the Moody's thing, but when you look at that, if we look at that tonight, maybe that wasn't supposed to be up there, but in 2014, when we got the report from Massaroni, I think both of you were on it at the time, our fund balance was a little low, but he compared us to the municipalities in the state that had the same bond rating as us, AA2. He took similar communities with similar demographics and close bond ratings. He didn't compare us to the cities and towns that have terrible bond ratings. So in comparison to that small group who had very good bond ratings, we're a little behind. And we've done things recently to try to bolster that. But that is one component that they look at. They also look at the debt that the town is carrying. And that was extremely high in comparison to the other things that they measure it against. We're already carrying more debt than we should. Every time you take on $1 of debt that requires 50 cents of a payment, you're taking that 50 cents out of the operating budget that you're going to use to run your programs. And you're making it go to a bond payment. So every time you take in more debt, we have a smaller piece of the pie to operate the town. I'm not denying we need a lot of improvement here. I'm just saying that the way that we're going about this is not appropriate. That's a terrible, terrible precedent. And we should be really concerned about how we're doing this. those reserves that we currently have, we just issued bonds in June of 2016, and we got an AA2 rating. So our balance sheet couldn't have been that bad. It must have impressed some of the people at Moody's and the other agencies that assigned the bond rating to us, and the investors scooped them up. There aren't a lot of communities that have anything much higher than AA2. There's a handful. If there is a provision in this charter to allow you to amend the budget and increase the tax levy, and that's the important part, increase the tax levy, I want to campaign for a charter revision to pull it out of the charter, because nobody that ever voted on any charter amendment or followed this charter in all these 60 years was ever aware it was in there. And if it's in there by some loose interpretation, then let's get rid of it. I'll start a petition to get people to sign up and put it on the ballot as a charter question. I think it's terrible that we have that. That's the only thing in the charter that protects people from being taxed to death during the year. And if you're going to kick it aside and say, yeah, so what, we can have that right, let's do it, and be the first council to do such a thing, and you set the precedent for being enabling future councils from doing the same thing, that's not a good legacy to leave, folks. I don't think, at least. You know, I don't know. I mean, I noticed, you know, I would just say one thing. Mr. Lombardi said he was proud of this, that we took this step and took that vote in July. I didn't see Providence take that step and put this in the budget in July. I didn't see them raise their levy as a reaction. And Mr. Lombardi is the city treasurer over there. I don't think it's a good thing to do. I think that's why no other community in the state did it. And I can't believe we're going down this path. I won't go into the reality of, you know, what we do have for money to fall back on. I'm sure you've heard the numbers. I've repeated them a million times. We have $3.5 million in our fund balance unrestricted. The school has 2.1. We have $435,000 in the contingency account that's in this year's operating budget. We've got close to $5.9 million already sitting there. I don't think we had to add $100,000 to the budget. I was, you know, when the budget was being debated, the budget committee didn't support this contingency fund, and Mr. Rappo and I spoke as former budget committee members and said, this is a terrible thing. You shouldn't be doing it this way. If you want to put it in the fund balance and restore the fund balance, then put it in the line item called fund balance restoration. And I would have never put the amounts that we're putting now. I think the highest we ever did was 100. And there's also been, you know, comparisons between years. Oh, well, we budgeted, the budget committee last year budgeted almost as much or a little less or something. They budgeted differently. They had designated contingency funds for specified uses. And that's a common practice in 99% of the districts. I didn't break it down on this sheet as to which ones had restricted or unrestricted. If they sent me back an email confirming the number and told me that it was restricted, then I put a footnote on the sheet. But I didn't, you know, separate it and isolate it out. But I know if I took the time, I'd see that most of them do a restricted designated account, not just a, you know, it's in there if you need to spend the money type thing. I was, in the conversations I had with some people who do budgeting and state law review on budgeting process and everything, I had a conversation with one party and I said, I don't understand the reluctance that was expressed at that meeting to put it in a, you know, a designated contingency fund, or put it in a restricted account, or put it in a fund led by a balance restoration account. And they pointed something out to me that I thought was, I had never thought of. And I was like shocked when I heard it. And they said, well, if you put it in certain types of accounts, at the end of the year when the audit report comes out, it doesn't get reported as a surplus. But if you put $535,000 in an undesignated contingency account and you don't spend it, you just guaranteed yourself a headline, town has $535,000 surplus. Didn't I do a good job? And I said, my God, it sounds like you'd be taxing people to get yourself a headline to say you did a good job and you got to use surplus. I'm not saying that happens, but that's what the old person who's been around a long time and has dealt with budgets was quickly able to explain to me. It also does something